Okay, we're rolling around to a good view of the Earth. How far away from Earth now, Jim? About
50 years ago this month, the crew of Apollo 8 became the first humans to orbit the moon. Just 7 months and 3 Apollo missions later, Americans would walk on the lunar surface.
Now NASA has announced a plan to return to the moon and established a permanent presence there, this time by harnessing the power of private enterprise. On Thursday, the agency issued a list of 9 U.S. companies now eligible to bid on contracts that will enable the effort. Here to discuss the project, plus this week's NASA landing of a probe on Mars, is Time Magazine editor-at-large Jeffrey Kluger. Jeffrey, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's start with this Thursday press conference. What exactly is NASA's battle plan here?
The battle plan here is to do for payloads on the lunar surface what we've done for cargo delivery to low Earth orbit, which is to outsource it to private companies. In this case, we will be taking smaller payloads, 1,100 to 2,200 pounds, to the lunar surface, allowing private companies to do it with the hope that this will lead to larger ships and eventually to ones capable of carrying humans. It's worked more or less in the low Earth orbit protocol.
What's the less?
Well, the less is that we're 3 years behind getting astronauts there, and Boeing and SpaceX are promising we're going to try to do it by 2019. So the success has been uneven, but this could work.
Keeping that in mind, is it a good idea to share this?
Well, it's a good idea to share it for a couple of reasons. If it is monetizable, and that's a big if, the private sector brings enormous energy and enormous innovation. You saw it with computers. You saw it with commercial aviation. If it's not monetizable, then it's left to NASA to continue doing this, and NASA is decidedly a not-for-private enterprise.
You touched a little bit on the reality of it based on other things that have happened previously, but also how have our interests in the moon changed?
Well, our interests in the moon have changed in that we're looking for ways to commercialize it. We're looking for ways to monetize it. In the past, when we went to the moon, I always say this, we went to the moon for reasons that cannot speak their name, because we didn't go for money. We didn't go for industry. We went because it's just one of those great transcendent
the next
human
frontier
things that we do. And I think that will always endure because that's deeply in the software.
NASA says that they think that we can achieve this again in 10 years.
Well, here's where I wish I was more optimistic.
That's a big sigh.
That's a bit, yeah. NASA, we are always going back to the moon. We're always going to Mars. We just never get there. I apply a rule when I read a NASA press release that I call count the conditionals. The more times they say something should, could, or would happen, the less likely it is it's actually going to happen.
So money was no object back in the day.
That's right.
Clearly is the case right now. I know the U.S. Geological Survey having a big part in the training of some of these astronauts. What's the science that will come out of this, do you think?
Well, the science that will come out of it, first of all, there are minerals that could be used. There are resources on the moon that could be used. But the more we learn about the moon, the more we learn about the formation of all bodies in all solar systems, terrestrial planets, gas planets, moons, moonlets. It also can provide us a place to test our techniques for homesteading worlds on a much more long-term basis. If we're testing it on the moon, we're only 3 days away from Earth. If you're testing on Mars, you're 8 months away.
And speaking of Mars, I'm sorry we don't have time to get there. We've got to take a break. But Jeffrey, thank you for the insight, at least when it comes to the moon.
Thank you so much.